The object create method allows us to create a new object using an existing one as its prototype. The new object will receive properties and methods from the existing object. In other words, we can use an existing object as the blueprint and create new objects based on it. But there is a problem. The new object is actually empty. Properties and methods from the existing object are stored and inherited by the new object. What if we want the new object to own those properties and methods? In this case, you need a new way of creating objects. Constructor function. Let's convert the prototype object into a vehicle constructor. The first letter of the constructor function name is usually capitalized. Inside the constructor function, property and method names should be prefixed with this. This will point to instance objects created by the constructor. Property name and value should be connected with an equal sign, not a colon. At the end of each statement, you put a semicolon or nothing. Do not use comma anymore. Methods must be defined as a property, meaning we assign an anonymous function to a property. Do not use the shorter syntax inside a constructor function. Now the constructor function is done. To create a new object using a constructor, you new the constructor. This process is called instantiating a constructor. The new object is called an instance object or an instance of the constructor. The parenthesis behind the constructor name is optional if the constructor does not have any arguments. Now let's output the car object. This time, properties and methods from the constructor function are owned by the new object. They are stored in the car object itself, not in its prototype. Every constructor needs to prepare a prototype property. It will be inherited by instance objects. The prototype property stores two memory addresses. The first one is the constructor function. It tells us who created this object and gives us access to the constructor function from inside the instance object. The second one is the object prototype. It sits at the end of the instance object's prototype chain. It gives the instance object basic object processing power. The constructor function also allows us to set customized property values. In the constructor function, we define two arguments, engine and gearbox. Then we assign them to the engine and gearbox property. When we new the constructor, we provide two values. The first one will be the engine value, and the second one the gearbox value. We can see our own values have been assigned to the corresponding properties. We can also filter and reset user-submitted values. For example, we can capitalize them. Properties and methods defined inside the constructor function will be owned by instance objects, which means we can only access them via instance objects. Therefore, we call them instance properties and instance methods. In the next lesson, we will show you how to define the other two types of properties and methods. They are prototype and static.